Okay, let's unpack this. We are tackling one of the truly legendary treks on Earth, the Annapurna Circuit, or APC.
It's an icon, for sure.
It really is. And if you talk to serious mountain trekkers, this route is famous not just for the altitude, but for its, well, its stunning, almost impossible diversity.
It's a huge part of the appeal. You're talking about starting low in these almost tropical valleys, right?
Exactly. You're passing through lush, terraced rice paddies and these thick pine forests, only to climb up into the high alpine zone where the air gets thin and the landscape it completely shifts.
It becomes this arid, windswept moonscape, very much like the Tibetan Plateau. It is a phenomenal geographical shift.
But the reality for anyone planning this journey today has fundamentally changed. The classic route, the one many seasoned travelers might remember, it's different now.
It is, and that's due to new regulations and, well, new infrastructure. That's why this exploration is so crucial. We are building this on the 100% independent and unbiased insights of Nepal guidebook author David Ways.
And that independence is so critical because when you're dealing with something as complex as, negotiating guides, figuring out permits, and making sure you don't accidentally get altitude sickness, you need reliable, boots-on-the-ground intelligence.
You do. You need info that isn't filtered through a sales pitch from a tour operator.
Right.
Precisely. Our mission today is to filter out all that noise and show you exactly where the sweet spot is. The APC requires a new kind of strategic planning.
So we need to navigate the mandatory guide regulations, strategically avoid these new road networks, and most importantly, identify the ideal itinerary.
The one that maximizes that unique high mountain experience while, and this is key, minimizing the very significant risk of altitude sickness.
Before we jump into all the details, let's just frame the scale of this trek. If you are preparing for this, you really need to understand what you're getting yourself into.
Absolutely. While the trek is technically classified as moderate, those 16-plus days of continuous walking, they really add up.
I can imagine.
It typically spans anywhere from 8 days for the absolute minimum rush, up to 18 days for the highly recommended strategic route. The distance itself varies, between about 161 kilometers for the shorter road-assisted routes and 229 for the full classic trekker who uses all the new bypass trails.
But the defining feature, the thing that commands respect in planning, is that pass.
The Thorongla Pass, hitting a staggering 5,416 meters.
Let's start with the seismic shift that happened back in March 2023. If you were dreaming of that romantic, completely solo, independent walk in the Himalayas, that dream is, well, it's been officially retired for the Annapurna region.
It has. The Nepal Tourism Board issued a directive that is now strictly enforced.
And what does that directive say exactly?
It says that all trekkers on the APC must hire a licensed, government-certified guide from a registered trekking company. This is not optional. It doesn't matter how much experience you have hiking or climbing mountains elsewhere in the world.
So the era of true independent solo trekking in this region is over.
It is, and the immediate implication for you, the listener, is you can't just land in Kathmandu and wander off to the trailhead.
Not anymore.
That's right. You have to factor in the cost, the time, and the logistical headache of securing a guide before you even leave the city. Now, David Ways does note that enforcement isn't always uniform across every single remote checkpoint. It can vary between regions and even by the time of year.
But you can't rely on that.
You cannot and you should not rely on slipping through the cracks. If you are caught trekking without a guide, the fines are severe and you risk deportation. The smart traveler has to plan this trip with the guide factored in as an absolute necessity.
Okay, so once the guide is secured, they're the ones who help you with the permits. The two non-negotiable permits. What are they and what are we talking about cost-wise?
Okay, so there are two distinct non-negotiable permits. The first one is the Annapurna Conservation Area Project Permit, the ACAP. This is essentially your entry ticket into the protected area.
And the cost for that?
It costs 3,000 Nepali rupees. To give you a sense of scale, that's roughly 23 to 25 US dollars, give or take, depending on the exchange rate.
And the second one's a bit more complex, right? The TIMS card.
The Trekker Information Management System, or TIMS card. This is critical for safety. It has a flat fee of 2,000 rupees, so about 15 to 18 US dollars.
But there's a catch with this one now.
There is, and here's the key difference. Because of the new mandatory guide rule, only a registered trekking company can apply for and procure this card on your behalf. You cannot just walk into the Nepal Tourism Board office and get it yourself anymore.
So the TIMS card isn't just a fee you pay, it's a safety registry. Can you maybe elaborate on why that registration is so important?
Absolutely. This really goes beyond bureaucratic paperwork. The registration checkpoints along the route ensure the authorities know where you are and when you pass through a certain village.
So in an emergency,
Exactly. In the event of a natural disaster, a major snowstorm, an avalanche, or a sudden illness, these checkpoints are vital for locating trekkers. The money from the TIMS card also directly funds things like guide and porter insurance, training programs, and search and rescue efforts, which is a huge factor in promoting safety in the region.
and what happens if you try to bypass the system? If you get caught without these permits, what are the consequences? We need to be really clear here.
The guidebook is very clear on this. If you fail to get the AC-HAP permit beforehand, you will be hit with a mandatory double charge at the first checkpoint you encounter.
Double charge.
That's 6,000 rupees, $46 on the spot. But the financial penalty is just the beginning. Both the AC-HAP and the TIMS card are immediately invalidated once they receive an official exit stamp. You can't use them to link treks.
What do you mean by that?
So if you finish the circuit, and then a week later you think, I feel good, I'll pop over to Annapurna Base Camp, and you try to use your stamped APC permits, you'll face an immediate 6,000 rupee on-the-spot fine. It's a system designed to encourage strict adherence to the plan.
Right. So now that we know the guide is non-negotiable, the next big question is, how do you get one? You mentioned the costs vary pretty dramatically.
They really do. You're looking at a range from a prepackaged trip costing nearly $2,000 all the way down to hiring an independent guide for just $30 a day.
Okay, let's start at the top tier. The package tours bought online. These are the ones you book weeks or months ahead of time from your home country.
Right. The main pro here is pure peace of mind. Everything is sorted for you. Like your permits, confirmed accommodation, detailed transport, sometimes even all your meals. For someone who values convenience and absolutely hates travel uncertainty, it's a very smooth option.
But the cost is high.
The costs are substantial. For a standard 16 to 21 day trek, you are looking at upwards of USD $1,800 per person. That's a massive outlay. Furthermore, the itinerary is fixed. There's no flexibility if you need an extra acclimatization day or want to take a different side trail.
And you don't even know who you're trekking with.
That's the critical part. You often don't meet or vet the person who will be your constant companion for 3 weeks, your guide, until you land. And that, to me, is a huge gamble.
Okay, so option 2. You wait until you land, you spend a few days in Kathmandu or Pokhara, and you go for the package tours bought in Nepal. I assume the price drops immediately.
It's significant. You can often drop the cost to a range of, say, $1,200 to $1,500 for the same length of trek. And the major benefit here is the ability to walk into an agency, sit down, and actually interview potential guides.
Which seems invaluable.
It is. You can check their English proficiency, assess their personality, and just make sure there's a comfort level before you commit. This is so important because the guide is your lifeline on the mountain. But the drawback is what the guide calls the bewildering amount of options. You're suddenly faced with dozens of agencies all offering slightly different packages, and it can get very confusing.
So how do you advise listeners to navigate that confusion? What are the key points to nail down in those negotiations?
You have to be meticulously clear about what is included. You need to scrutinize every single line item. Does the price include the ACVP and TIMS permits? Does it include all 3 meals every day or just accommodation? Does it include the cost of transport, like the jeep to Chame or the bus back from Jomsom?
Because if you don't, you get hit with surprise costs on the mountain.
Exactly. A good agency will provide a clear, written contract that details every single service provided. Get it in writing.
And finally, for the budget-conscious traveler who still wants maximum flexibility, there's just
hiring an independent guide only. This is the sweet spot for the experienced, budget-minded trekker. The costs just plummet. You're looking at roughly $29 to $50 per day just for the guide's salary.
So you do the math. For a 16-day trek, that's maybe, $800 for the guide?
Right. $464 to $800 for the guide, plus your own accommodation and food costs, which generally range between $20 and $30 a day. It is substantially cheaper than any package tour.
But the dynamic completely flips, right?
It does. You gain independence, but you inherit all the responsibility. You are now responsible for bargaining for your own rooms, making sure you get a good price, ordering your own food. It takes effort and patience.
And there's a detail from the source material about the price point of the guide, isn't there?
A crucial detail. If you hire a guide at the lowest end of that price scale, say $29 to $35 a day, you are often hiring a trainee guide. They're usually licensed, but their English skills might be limited, and their experience tackling emergencies or complex routes might be less robust than a $50 a day veteran.
So you have to weigh the savings against the need for clear communication when you're freezing at 5,000 meters.
That's the trade-off. Absolutely.
Okay, so timing is everything when you're dealing with high-altitude weather. You really don't want to get stuck in a whiteout or a monsoon. What's the consensus on the golden window for the APC?
The ideal window, the absolute peak season, is consistently October through November, and you can stretch that just into early December. This period offers the clearest skies, the most stable weather, and frankly, the best photos.
Crisp air, great visibility.
Exactly. Superb.
And if that window just doesn't work with your schedule, what's plan B?
The second best option is the late dry season, February, March, and April. Temperatures are starting to warm up. The snow has typically cleared from the passes, though, early season in February still carries a residual risk of cold.
Let's talk about those risks. The extremes, the severe cold and the monsoon.
Okay. The cold and risk period runs from late November, December, all the way through February. The major danger here is twofold. First, the risk of high passes like Thorongla closing due to heavy, unpredictable snow is very real.
And second,
Second, even if the passes open, the temperatures are just brutal. David Way's research really stresses that because of the wind chill factor at 5,416 meters, temperatures can plunge more than 10 degrees Celsius below the ambient air temperature.
so it feels dangerously cold.
It does. You need proper rated expedition gear if you're going to attempt the pass during this time.
And then the least popular time is the monsoon. Why is it so unpopular beyond just, rain?
The monsoon, which runs from June to September, brings consistent, heavy downpours that can last for days. This means persistent mud, slippery trails, and the constant risk of landslides closing roads and trails.
And leeches?
And the less appealing factor,
Right.
leeches, yes. They are prevalent in the lower, wetter valleys. Also, the cloud cover is persistent, so it often completely obscures the majestic mountain views that you traveled so far to see.
The guidebook also emphasizes the temperature gradient. You're talking about moving from near tropical heat to Arctic cold in just a couple of weeks.
That is the defining feature of the APC. You might start out trekking in Basi Sahar at around 800 meters, where it's hot and humid enough for a t-shirt, but the physics of high altitude are unforgiving. That journey from 800 meters to 5,416 means you have to carry gear for every single season.
So you need to pack for intense sun, but also freezing temperatures.
And potentially life-threatening cold and wind chill once you commit to that Thorongla Pass crossing. You should never assume that a warm day in Manang at 3,500 meters means you can ditch your down jacket. You just can't.
We've established that the APC is labeled moderate, but that rating can be deceiving. What's the physical reality of the effort required day after day?
It requires a solid foundation of fitness, but honestly, more importantly, mental endurance. You are committing to 4 to 7 hours of slow, continuous hiking every single day for over 2 weeks.
And the terrain is not flat.
Not at all. It's often steep, relentlessly upward, or jarringly downward. The biggest struggle for most trekkers isn't a single impossible hill. It's the cumulative tiredness that hits around day 10 or 12. Your body is just constantly stressed, burning calories, and operating in a low-oxygen environment.
Which days really test your limits?
There are two main culprits. The first is, without a doubt, day 9, the crossing of Thorongla Pass. You typically start before dawn, often walking by headlamp in sub-zero temperatures. It involves a massive 800-meter climb to the summit,
And then a huge descent.
a punishing 1,600-meter descent to Mukdanath. This day can easily last 8 to 12 hours.
And you mentioned the descent is where trekkers often suffer the most.
Yes, the sheer length and steepness of the descent from the pass to Mukdanath is notoriously demanding on the joints. Your knees and quads will be screaming by the time you reach the tea house. This is often where people, exhausted and having hit the high point, let their guard down and risk injury.
But all of that physical effort,
Yeah.
it pales in comparison to the single greatest risk on the circuit:
Altitude sickness.
altitude sickness.
It cannot be overstated. Acute mountain sickness, or AMS, is the critical safety factor. This is why the itinerary planning we're talking about is literally a matter of life and death. The source material is adamant that proper acclimatization is the only reliable defense.
Can you elaborate on the importance of that acclimatization day in Manang? Why is day 6 so critical, and what should you actually be doing there?
Manang at 3,520 meters is the crucial pivot point. Trekkers should spend an extra day here, resting, or ideally, following the mountaineering rule of climb high, sleep low. This means taking a short, rigorous day trek to a higher point, but then returning to Manang's altitude to sleep.
And David Weiss highlights a couple of good side tricks from there.
Two fantastic ones. The climb to Annapurna Lake is one, or for a more strenuous but more effective effort, the hike up to Ice Lake, which is Tall.
Why Ice Lake specifically?
The Ice Lake hike pushes you up to over 4,600 meters. It provides an excellent dose of high altitude, but then you return to Manang to sleep at 3,520. That stress on the body triggers the necessary physiological changes, producing more red blood cells to handle the coming days, but without the danger of sleeping at that high altitude.
And if you skip this...
If you skip this or rush through Manang, you are courting disaster.
So what does that disaster look like for those gung-ho trekkers who feel fine and just want to push ahead? Let's make the symptoms of AMS really clear.
AMS starts with headaches and nausea, and it's often mistaken for just a bad cold or exhaustion. But if you ignore it, it can escalate rapidly into high-altitude pulmonary edema, that's fluid in the lungs, HAPE, or high-altitude cerebral edema, HACE, which is swelling of the brain.
And those are life-threatening.
Extremely. HAPE causes breathlessness even when you're resting. HAPE leads to severe confusion, loss of coordination, and eventually coma and death. The guide notes that so many people feel fine at 3,500 meters and they rush on, only to get violently ill at 4,200 meters, requiring an immediate, rapid descent. That acclimatization day isn't a vacation, it's a necessary biological adaptation.
And if that worst-case scenario happens, AMS or a serious injury, what are the escape routes now that the road network is more developed?
Well, the development of the roads has at least created these vital lifelines. Road transport is available from Muktanath, which is the village right actually across the pass. From there, or from the major hub of Jomsom further down, you can hire jeeps or buses to take you all the way back to Pokhara.
You can even fly out of Jomsom, right?
You can, if the weather allows. If AMS is severe, your guide will arrange for an immediate descent, which often involves road transport or even a costly emergency helicopter evacuation if the situation is dire. Knowing those escape routes exist provides a necessary backup, but they are expensive and stressful.
Okay, let's talk about fuel. For 2 weeks of sustained effort, you are burning some serious calories. What's the menu like on the trail?
The food is standard Nepali tea house fare, but the good news is the Annapurna region has a consistently better reputation for food quality and variety than some other remote trekking areas. You'll find menus with everything from pasta and pizza and momos to even things that are optimistically labeled as steaks and burgers.
But the trekking staple, that's the real hero.
Oh, absolutely. The recommended trekking champion is dal bhat steamed rice, served with the lentil soup, the dal, and vegetable curries, the bhat. It's filling, it's nutritious, and incredibly calorie-dense.
And it's often refillable.
That's the great tradition. If you ask nicely, it's often refillable, so you get 2-for-1 energy, which is just essential for those big trekking days.
You also mentioned some unique highlights that are specific to the APC.
Yes, the source material calls out the famous apple pancakes and apple pies. Because the western side of the circuit, particularly the villages around Marpha and Kagbeni, is known for its apple cultivation, you get access to genuinely fresh, high-quality apple products. It's a wonderful treat after days of rice and lentils.
A word of warning about meat, though.
Yes, a word of warning. While you might see meat on the menu, exercise caution. As you get higher and more remote, refrigeration is non-existent, which makes meat a potential stomach risk. It's much safer to stick to vegetarian options high up.
Shifting to hydration. Water safety and cost is a massive factor. How should you manage your water intake?
You need to be drinking constantly, at least 4 to 5 liters a day at high altitude. Bottled mineral water is not only environmentally disastrous, it leaves these huge plastic piles, but it is also prohibitively expensive.
How much are we talking?
It costs anywhere from 100 to 250 rupees per liter, which is about 75 cents to almost $2. And that price just keeps going up with the altitude.
So what's the smart, green, and budget-friendly choice?
Purification. The most budget and eco-friendly choice is carrying your own purification method, whether it's tablets, a UV pen, or a high-quality filter like a Sterapen. You can fill up for free at natural spring sources.
And if you want to be extra safe?
If you want the safest option, particularly at the highest elevations where the water source might be questionable, you can always buy boiled water from the tea house. It's typically about 50 rupees a liter, so around 40 cents. It's an easy way to stay hydrated and warm without creating plastic waste or risking stomach bugs.
And finally, accommodation.
Yeah.
After a 10-hour day of walking, what level of comfort should you expect from a tea house?
The term tea house covers a huge range. It can be anything from a very basic dormitory to a surprisingly nice family-run hotel in the larger towns. The general rule is basic but clean. Rooms often have two single beds, and that's about it.
But you're not likely to be left without a room.
That's the good news. Tea houses rarely run out of rooms, even in peak season.
And what are the costs for a room?
Accommodation costs are incredibly low, especially if you eat your meals there. They often range from just 100 to 200 rupees, that's under $2, for a shared room, up to maybe 2,000 rupees or $15 for a private room with better amenities.
But they get more expensive the higher you go.
They do. The prices increase significantly the higher and more remote you get, which just reflects the difficulty of getting supplies up there. And the universal downside, especially in busy seasons and at high altitude, is hot water. Hot showers are a rare luxury, and they often come with an extra fee, so prepare for a few cold sponge baths. It's all part of the authentic trekking experience.
We have to talk about the road. It's this controversial development that many purists say has spoiled the Annapurna Circuit. The guide acknowledges this, but it also offers a reality check.
It does. We have to face the facts. The road network is a permanent and expanding fixture. It runs from Basisahar right up to Manang on the eastern side, and then it picks up again on the western side, running down from Muktanath.
And yes, it's impacted the original trekking purity.
It has, but the good news is twofold. First, the traffic is minimal. It's largely local jeeps and buses, not a constant stream of cars. And second, the mighty mountains are still there, towering over everything.
So the mission now is strategic avoidance. How does the guidebook suggest bypassing the worst sections of the road?
The key is identifying and using the high-altitude bypass trails. On the eastern side, you must not drive all the way to Manang, even though the road goes there.
Why not?
Driving too far bypasses critical low-altitude trekking days that are required for safe acclimatization. The recommendation is to start trekking from Chame or even earlier, and use the numerous, well-maintained bypass trails that climb the steep slopes above the main valley floor. These paths often run parallel to the road but offer quiet, traditional village experiences and uninterrupted mountain views.
What about once you cross the wrong law and land in Muktanath? The temptation must be high to just jump on the first available jeep.
That is the crucial choice on the western side. If you immediately take a bus from Muktanath to Jomsom or Tatopani, you miss out on some of the most unique cultural spots of the entire region. The source advises taking the time to trek down to Kagbeni first.
Why Kagbeni? What makes it so special?
Kagbeni is often described as this mystical, quiet, culturally rich village. It's located right at the entry point to the restricted Upper Mustang region. It has a completely different, ancient Tibetan feel with these narrow stone lanes and historical structures.
Did you trade a jarring road ride for a few hours of beautiful walking?
Exactly. You get a beautiful downhill walk through these arid landscapes. You can then make your strategic transport decision from Kagbeni, having preserved that sense of high-altitude tranquility.
Okay, so based on this need for road avoidance and proper acclimatization, the guidebook outlines 3 key itineraries.
It does, offering options from the safest route to the riskiest dash.
Let's discuss the first and most highly recommended option, the 16-day Annapurna Circuit. This is now considered the de facto full circuit.
This itinerary is absolutely the sweet spot. It expertly balances the need for maximum trekking time with the reality of the road network, and above all, safety. It is the optimal choice for the vast majority of international trekkers.
So what are the key safety milestones that are built into this 16-day plan?
The architecture of this route is built around that life-saving acclimatization schedule. It includes the absolutely crucial Day 6 acclimatization day in Manang, where you hike high and sleep low. It schedules the pass crossing for Day 9 to ensure trekkers are adequately rested and prepared.
And after the pass, what benefit do those extra days on the western side offer?
They turn the end of the trek into a restorative cultural journey instead of just a painful race for the bus. The itinerary allows for rest and enjoyment in quieter towns like Marpha.
You mentioned Marpha before with the apples.
Exactly. It's highly recommended as a tranquil, traditional village known for its apple cultivation. It offers a much more peaceful experience than the busy, modern hub of Jomsom. And the itinerary also ensures you reach Tatopani, which is home to the famous hot springs, giving you a chance to soak your exhausted muscles before you get your final transport back to Pokhara.
So while a purist could still aim for the full 21 days.
They could by maximizing every single path and side trail, but the 16-day option is the most viable and highly recommended choice today.
Okay, now let's look at the rapid fire option, the absolute minimum 8-day circuit, the half circuit.
This itinerary is designed for those who are extremely time-constrained but still want the achievement of crossing Thorongla Pass. The shortening is achieved by using jeeps or buses for the initial and final stages. You might jeep straight to Cham on day 1, cutting out days of low-altitude walking.
And you end with an immediate exit from Muktanath.
Right, immediate transport from Muktanath to Jomsom for a quick exit.
What's the inherent danger? I mean, you're cutting the time in half.
The danger is immense. David Ways issues a severe warning here. He says the pace is high risk and that anyone offering an itinerary with fewer than 8 days is just asking for altitude sickness issues.
And even in the 8-day itinerary.
Even then, you must still adhere to the 2-day stay, or at least that one critical acclimatization day in Manang. You are fast-tracking your body to high altitude, which is physiologically dangerous. You're prioritizing speed over survival.
Which brings us to the most dangerous option of all, the cautionary 6-day itinerary.
This one should be approached with extreme caution, if at all. It compresses the trekking time so severely that it virtually eliminates any necessary acclimatization. This route is only viable for 2 types of people.
Who are they?
Experienced mountaineers who are already acclimated from previous treks, maybe having just come down from a higher peak, or those with a complete disregard for their own safety. For the average fit traveler, rushing your body to 5,416 meters in such a short window greatly increases the probability of developing life-threatening HELP or HAPE, hell-hesi. Do not attempt this.
Right. So here's where it gets really interesting. This is where the savvy traveler can turn that raid dilemma into a huge advantage. If the 16-day circuit still feels a bit too road adjacent, David Ways has developed the concept of extended Annapurna Circuit routes, what we call linking treks.
This is an architectural solution to the problem. Instead of viewing the APC as a single fixed loop that just ends, you treat it as the spine of a vast regional exploration. By linking the APC with adjacent treks, you can avoid the road and create a comprehensive journey lasting up to 30 days or more.
And the immediate benefit is acclimatization.
Superb, natural acclimatization before you even approach Thorongla Pass.
Okay, tell us about the most challenging and rewarding link, Narfu plus the APC.
The Narfu Valley is a challenging, remote, high-altitude trek. It takes an initial 10 to 12 days. It runs through this secluded valley that's largely untouched by modernization, offering incredible views and a real immersion into a local culture with a distinctly Tibetan flavor.
And crucially, it finishes in Pazang.
Which is conveniently located right before Manang. So you use the Narfu trek to pre-acclimatize before the main event. You finish 12 days of high-altitude walking, your body is fully adapted, and you roll into Manang already feeling strong. It makes the subsequent crossing of Thorongla Pass much safer and more enjoyable.
That's the route for the real trekking aficionados.
It really is.
Now, if you're looking for a unique cultural and geographical change after the pass, you can link to Upper Mustang.
This is a spectacular option. From Kagdeni, that quiet, arid village we discussed, you can extend your journey by an additional 10 days into Upper Mustang. This is a culturally protected, semi-independent kingdom experience. The geography is stunning, vast canyons, eroded cliffs. It's a complete contrast to the green valleys of Annapurna.
Are there any specific permit issues for Upper Mustang? It's a restricted area, isn't it?
It is, and it traditionally requires a very expensive permit, often hundreds of dollars per week. However, David Ways notes an exciting loophole: the Upper Mustang Borderland Trek. This allows a full day of trekking into the restricted area from Kagbeni without needing that expensive permit, so you can get a taste of that unique landscape on a tighter budget.
And finally, you can link with the region's other famous tracks.
That's the beauty of the APC's central location. It's connectivity. Once you descend, you can pivot easily. From Taitopani, you can peel off onto an 8-day route towards Annapurna Base Camp, or ABC. Or from Gorapani, you can take a moderate 4 to 5 day extension up to Marty Himmel. This linking mentality turns a 2-week trip into a comprehensive, multi-layered exploration of the entire region.
What should trekkers expect when they try to negotiate these extensions with their guide or their agency? Do guys embrace the idea of a 30-day journey?
Not always with enthusiasm, unfortunately. While the pros for you, the trekker unparalleled exploration, superior acclimatization, are obvious, the cons relate to logistics and work for the guide. Some agencies might resist because it's simply more work, or they might try to charge significantly more by claiming it's a separate, additional trek.
So you need to be firm and informed.
Absolutely. Research the standard rates for these linking treks beforehand. You should be prepared to argue that if the guide is already with you, their daily rate should remain consistent, regardless of the trail name. The ability to link these routes is one of the greatest values of the APC today, and you should ensure your guide supports that comprehensive vision.
So what does this all mean? The Annapurna Circuit remains an undeniable blockbuster trekking journey. It delivers a diversity of terrain and culture that few other mountain roads can match.
But the trek has matured. It's now defined by the need for strategic planning, and that planning is guided by two new realities: the mandatory licensed guide and the deliberate avoidance of road networks.
And the key to success and safety.
It lies in prioritizing acclimatization above all else. That critical rest stay in Manang is not negotiable. And choosing an itinerary like the 16-day de facto full circuit that respects the biological needs of the human body at altitude.
The modern APC trekker isn't just someone who walks. They have to be a strategist, navigating bureaucracy and infrastructure to find those untouched trails.
Consider the ultimate transformation this road controversy has forced upon us. While many mourn the loss of the original fixed loop, the need to find new, quieter paths has paradoxically opened up the potential for a deeper, more comprehensive exploration.
That's a fascinating way to look at it.
How does embracing that linking trek mentality, connecting the APC spine with a challenging section like Narfu or an arid cultural gem like Upper Mustang, how does that transform your entire journey into a true multi-layered immersion into the heart of Nepal? It forces us to see the Annapurna region not as a single path, but as a dynamic matrix of trails just waiting to be explored.
If you're ready to start planning your adventure and navigate these choices with confidence, you can find the detailed information and guidebooks mentioned here, including the First Time Trekking in Nepal guidebook and the Comprehensive Trekking in Nepal guidebook at David Way's The Longest Way Home Nepal Travel website.